Power never really ends in this universe. It only changes faces. Just when everyone thinks the story is closing, a new chapter quietly starts forming in the shadows. What if everything we've watched so far was only the setup? What if the real game hasn't even begun yet? That is where Power Legacy enters the conversation, not as a rumor, but as an unavoidable future that has been building right in front of our eyes. The idea of Power Legacy does not come from nowhere. It is born from patterns, silence, and long-term choices made across the entire universe. Every major story has slowly moved away from simple street survival and closer to something bigger. Power used to be about hunger, fear, and fast money. Now it is about control, planning, and what gets passed down. When characters stop fighting just to live and start fighting to last, the story changes. That shift is the first sign that a legacy era is coming. The universe no longer feels like separate stories. It feels like one long road leading to a shared future where the past refuses to stay buried. That legacy means unfinished business. It means decisions that do not die with the person who made them. Every rise to power creates enemies, debts, and secrets that wait patiently for the next generation. This is why a legacy story becomes necessary. You cannot build an empire and expect it to disappear quietly. Power Legacy exists because too many actions were left unresolved. Too many names still carry weight. Too many people are living under shadows that were cast long before they were ready. This kind of story is not about starting fresh. It is about inheriting damage and learning how to survive it. What makes this moment different is timing. The universe has reached a point where endings feel temporary. Characters exit, but their influence stays. Old rules no longer work the same way. Loyalty is thinner. Trust is rare. And everyone understands that power today looks nothing like power from the past. The audience feels this shift too. The emotional connection is no longer just about who wins. It is about who lasts long enough to leave something behind. Power Legacy fits this moment because it answers the question the universe keeps asking without saying out loud. What happens after the story we thought was the main one? Power Legacy also changes how the audience watches the story. Every move suddenly matters more. Small choices feel heavy because they echo into the future. A simple betrayal today can become a full war tomorrow. This makes the universe feel alive and dangerous again, not because of sudden violence, but because of slow consequences. Legacy stories thrive on tension, not speed. They remind us that the most dangerous thing in power is not the enemy in front of you, but the future you cannot control. One of the biggest misunderstandings about legacy is thinking it is a reward. In reality, legacy is a burden that comes with a price. Power Legacy would not be about inheriting success. It would be about inheriting problems that are bigger than the person carrying them. Names open doors, but they also attract danger. Reputation brings respect, but it also brings expectations that are impossible to escape. The next chapter of power is not about starting from zero. It is about starting already surrounded by enemies who were created years ago. Legacy creates pressure in ways street power never did. When you rise on your own, every mistake feels personal. When you inherit power, every mistake feels public. People are no longer judging you for who you are, but for who they expect you to be. That pressure shapes characters differently. It creates leaders who are colder, more careful, and sometimes more cruel. Power Legacy would explore how people change when they realize they are not just fighting for themselves, but for a name that refuses to die. Another reason this story must happen is because the universe has outgrown simple victories. Winning one war is no longer enough. The question now is whether winning destroys the future. Characters have learned that power without vision collapses fast. Legacy forces vision. It forces planning beyond the next move. It forces characters to think about what happens when they are gone. That kind of thinking creates smarter stories, darker choices, and deeper consequences. This also brings emotional weight. Legacy stories are not loud all the time. They are heavy. They sit with guilt, regret, and fear. Characters carry memories that do not belong to them, but still control them. They make decisions trying to fix past mistakes, only to create new ones. Power legacy would not be about escaping history. It would be about being trapped inside it and learning how to breathe. In this world, legacy does not protect anyone. It exposes them. It shines a light on everything that was hidden before. That is why this chapter feels inevitable. The universe has reached a point where hiding is no longer possible. Everything that was buried is ready to rise. Only Power stories were about survival. Every day felt like a fight to stay alive. But over time, the focus has shifted. Characters are no longer just reacting. They are planning. They are building systems, not just making money. This evolution is critical to understanding why Power legacy is the natural next step. When survival turns into control, the story demands a larger stage. Control changes everything. It slows the pace but raises the stakes. Instead of quick decisions, there are long games. Instead of emotional reactions, there are cold calculations. Power legacy would live in this space. A space where violence is not random but strategic, where silence is more dangerous than shouting, where the biggest moves happen off-screen. Long before anyone realizes what is coming, this shift also reflects growth in the universe itself. The world feels bigger now. The consequences travel farther. Actions in one place affect lives in another. Legacy connects those dots. It makes the universe feel like one living organism instead of separate parts. That connection is what keeps the story fresh while staying true to its roots. The move from survival to control also changes how characters view loss. Losing is no longer just death. It is losing influence, losing loyalty, losing future options. Power legacy would explore how characters fight to protect their future, not just their life. That makes every decision heavier and every mistake more expensive. This kind of storytelling requires patience, and the universe has earned it. The foundation has been laid slowly, piece by piece. Power legacy would not feel rushed because the ground has already been prepared. The audience has grown with the universe. Viewers are no longer looking only for shock. They are looking for meaning. They want to understand why things happen, not just see them happen. Power legacy speaks directly to that desire. It promises answers, but not comfort. It offers depth, not safety. Fans are already thinking in legacy terms, even if they don't realize it. They talk about impact, influence, and consequences. They debate futures, not just endings. That mindset makes Power legacy feel less like a guess and more like a logical next step. The audience is ready because the story trained them to be. Power legacy would reward long-time viewers. Every callback would matter. Every reference would carry weight. Nothing would feel wasted. That kind of payoff is rare, and when done right, it creates loyalty that lasts. It turns viewers into witnesses of a long journey instead of consumers of a single moment. In the end, Power legacy is not about replacing what came before. It is about revealing what it was always leading to. The real story begins when the consequences can no longer be avoided. And in this universe, the consequences are finally ready to take center stage. Power legacy cannot exist without a new face. But choosing that face is not as simple as picking the strongest character. In this universe, power is never just about muscle or money. It is about timing, mindset, and the ability to survive pressure without losing control. The next leader of Power legacy would not rise loudly. They would rise quietly, learning from the mistakes of those who came before them. This person would understand that legacy is not claimed through force alone, but through patience, vision, and fear earned over time. What makes this choice so dangerous is the weight attached to it. Becoming the face of Power legacy means carrying expectations that can crush even the smartest mind. Everyone will compare the new leader to past figures. Every move will be judged. Every mistake will feel bigger than it really is. This pressure shapes behavior. It creates a leader who is more guarded, less emotional, and more willing to make cold choices. Power legacy would show how leadership changes when the person at the top knows they are being watched not just by enemies, but by history itself. Another key factor is balance. The face of power legacy would need to walk a thin line between respect and fear. Too much softness invites attack. Too much violence creates chaos that cannot be controlled. The new leader must understand when to strike and when to wait. This level of control separates survivors from rulers. In earlier stories, impatience often led to quick wins and faster losses. Legacy demands the opposite. It rewards those who can delay satisfaction for long-term dominance. There is also the question of blood versus earned power. The universe has shown that having a famous name opens doors, but it also paints targets. A legacy leader might have access to resources others don't, but they also inherit enemies they never created. This creates inner conflict. Do they honor the past or break away from it? Do they embrace the name or try to escape it? Power legacy would thrive on this struggle, showing how identity becomes a battlefield long before any physical war begins. What truly defines the face of power legacy is understanding sacrifice. Not every fight can be won. Not every loss can be avoided. Sometimes protecting the future means letting go of the present. This mindset is what separates a temporary boss from a lasting one. The new leader must accept that power costs more as it grows. The bigger the empire, the heavier the losses. Power legacy would not crown its leader with celebration. It would trap them in responsibility. The face of this new chapter would be someone shaped by fear, pressure, and long nights of doubt. Someone who understands that power is not proven by how loudly it is taken, but by how long it can be held. In this universe, the face of power legacy is not chosen by destiny. It is forged by survival under unbearable weight. In the power universe, some characters leave the screen but never leave the story. One shadow still controls everything, even without a voice, a body, or a presence. That shadow is Ghost. Power legacy would not need his return to feel his power. His influence is already locked into the system. Every rule, every betrayal, every rise to the top follows patterns that were shaped long ago. Ghost didn't just build power. He built a way of thinking, and that way of thinking refuses to die. What makes Ghost's shadow so dangerous is that it operates silently. No one needs to mention his name for his impact to be felt. Characters make choices believing they are acting freely. But many of those choices are shaped by fear of repeating his mistakes or hunger to surpass him. Legacy stories thrive on this kind of control. The past becomes an invisible hand, guiding actions without asking permission. Power legacy would live inside that tension, where characters are never sure if they are making new moves or replaying old ones. Ghost's greatest weapon was not violence. It was planning. He believed in long games, clean appearances, and quiet domination. That mindset changed the universe forever. In a legacy era, those ideas become rules instead of exceptions. The next generation does not ask if Ghost was right or wrong. They ask how to use his lessons without ending up like him. That struggle creates inner conflict that no gunfight can solve. The shadow also creates fear. Not fear of death, but fear of exposure. Ghost proved that power can look untouchable on the surface while rotting underneath. Characters in Power Legacy would constantly worry about what has been recorded, remembered, or passed down. Secrets become time bombs. Old moves resurface at the worst possible moment. The past stops being history and starts becoming a threat. Another reason Ghost's shadow matters is because it represents ambition without rest. He wanted more than survival. He wanted escape, respect, and control all at once. That desire still infects the universe. Characters chase clean exits while standing in dirty worlds. They try to balance family, image, and power, believing they can do it better. Power Legacy would expose how dangerous that belief really is. There is also guilt tied to the shadow. People carry blame they never speak about, choices they regret, but cannot undo. Ghost's story left scars across multiple lives. and those scars shape future decisions. Legacy does not allow healing. It forces confrontation. Characters must either accept the damage or repeat it. Avoidance is no longer an option. How a legacy would show that the most powerful ghost is not a person. It is an idea. The idea that control can fix chaos. The idea that intelligence can outrun consequence. The idea that power can be shaped into something clean. That idea has already failed once. But it keeps returning because it is tempting. It promises safety, order, and respect, but it always demands a price. In the end, Ghost's shadow is not about memory. It is about warning, a reminder that every empire believes it is smarter than the last. Our legacy would not try to erase that shadow. It would force characters to live inside it, proving that the past does not chase you. It waits for you too. Step into the same trap again. Our legacy would not feel real unless separate journeys begin to move toward the same destination over time. Characters who once lived in different worlds start pulling on the same thread. Their choices begin to overlap. Their enemies start to look familiar. Their goals stop feeling personal and start feeling connected. This is how collision stories are born, not through sudden meetings, but through pressure slowly forcing people into the same space. In this universe, collision is never loud at first. It is quiet and comfortable and unavoidable. What makes these collisions dangerous is that they are driven by need, not desire. Characters don't come together because they want to. They come together because staying apart becomes impossible. Resources dry up, enemies grow stronger, territory loses meaning, the world becomes smaller, and options disappear. Power Legacy would explore how strong individuals react when independence is no longer enough to survive. Cooperation becomes a weapon, but also a risk. Every collision carries history. Old grudges don't vanish just because the future demands. Unity, words said years ago, still hurt. Betrayals never fully heal. Power Legacy would live inside that tension, where alliances feel forced and trust feels temporary. Characters would smile while calculating exit plans. They would help while preparing for betrayal. This constant uncertainty keeps the story alive, because no moment of peace ever feels permanent. Another key element is control. When paths collide, someone always tries to lead, someone always tries to dominate the direction of the future. Power Legacy would show how leadership becomes contested not through open fights, but through subtle moves. Information becomes more valuable than weapons. Influence becomes stronger than fear. The real battles happen in conversations, not shootouts. Whoever controls the flow of knowledge controls the outcome. These collisions also change identity. Characters who once knew exactly who they were begin to question their role. Are they leaders or followers? Builders or destroyers, protectors or threats? Power Legacy would show how identity fractures under pressure. People adapt, sometimes in ways that shock even themselves. Survival pushes them to cross lines they once swore never to touch. Legacy does not care about promises. It only rewards results. There is also loss attached to every collision. Not all paths survive the merge. Some characters get left behind. Some get sacrificed for the greater plan. Our Legacy would not hide this truth. Progress always costs something. The bigger the future being built, the heavier the price. Characters must decide what they are willing to lose to secure what comes next. What makes these moments powerful is inevitability. The audience can feel it coming long before it happens. The tension builds slowly, scene by scene, choice by choice. When the collision finally happens, it doesn't feel shocking. It feels earned. That is the strength of Legacy storytelling. It respects patience and rewards attention. In the end, when paths collide, there is no return to the old way of living. Everything changes. Relationships shift. Power rearranges itself. Power Legacy would use these collisions to reshape the entire universe, proving that the future is never built alone and is never built without blood on the foundation. Our Legacy cannot move forward without new blood stepping into the fire. Every empire reaches a point where experience alone is no longer enough. The next generation does not wait patiently for permission. They grow up watching, learning, and judging the mistakes of those before them. By the time they step forward, they already understand the rules better than anyone expects. They are not impressed by old stories. They want results, not warnings. This shift is one of the most dangerous moments in any power structure. The next generation carries a different kind of hunger. They are not starving for survival the way earlier players were. They are starving for identity. They want to prove they are not just extensions of the past. This creates tension. On one side, the older generation sees recklessness and impatience. On the other side, the younger players see fear disguised as wisdom. Power legacy would live inside this clash, where respect is demanded but rarely given freely. What makes the rise of the next generation so unpredictable is their relationship with fear. They grew up surrounded by danger, but they did not experience the early chaos that built the empire. This distance makes them bold. They believe they can do things cleaner, faster, and smarter. Sometimes they are right. Sometimes they underestimate how deep the damage really goes. Legacy teaches them lessons the hard way, because the past does not explain itself. It waits to be tested. Technology, strategy, and mindset also change with the next generation. They move differently. They speak less and observe more. They understand that power today is not always visible. Influence spreads quietly. Information travels faster than violence. Power legacy would show how the younger players weaponize patience instead of rage. They do not rush wars. They study them. That makes them more dangerous than their elders realized. Another key difference is loyalty. The next generation does not believe in blind loyalty. They believe in value. Relationships are measured by usefulness, not history. This creates a colder world, but also a more honest one. Power legacy would explore how this mindset reshapes alliances. Friendships become temporary. Family ties become complicated. Nothing is sacred unless it proves its worth. The rise of the next generation also brings new kinds of villains. These are not loud threats. They are quiet planners. They smile, adapt, and wait. They understand that patience wins more battles.